Yeah, it's about that time again. Time to get started on your taxes. Crystal Faulkner from the CPA and business firm Cooney, Faulkner & Stevens is joining us today for a noon tax chat. You've been so kind to do this, and you're willing to answer people's questions. Okay, so there's one. TurboTax, a lot of other programs. Is it good enough, or should we pay a tax professional like yourself?
Well, Tanya, it just depends on how complicated your situation is. If it is pretty straightforward, your situation, then TurboTax and other programs like that work just fine. But if your life is a bit more complicated, you started a business, you made some real estate investment purchases, or you have a lot of investment activity, you may want to seek an outside professional.
And if you're just nervous, then go with a professional. Okay. What things should we be looking out for this year? Are there new things?
Well, the good news is there's not a lot of tax law changes for 2011. The other good news is we get 2 extra days until April 17th of 2012.
Oh, we get to procrastinate longer.
You get to procrastinate, exactly. But a couple of things to be on the lookout for is if you do have investments with an outside professional, take a look at that, because in addition to the sales proceeds, the investment counselor is now required to report the cost basis for items that you bought and sold in 2011. And also, many people converted their traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, and if they made the election to postpone that gain for 2 years, which they could have done, that first installment is due this year. If you don't include that, you'll get a little note from the IRS.
Time to pay the piper on that one. Okay, we have a question from Robert. He purchased an Easy Breathe system in December, which reduces heating and AC costs. So does that device, is that eligible for the $200 or $500 energy credit?
Well, you know, Tanya, I looked that up, and an Easy Breeze, from what I can tell, is a dehumidifier, and that is not an item that's specifically eligible for the energy credit.
Okay.
However, in general, if you can show that you have purchased energy efficient qualifying items, you can get up to a $500 credit this year. That is down from $1,500 last year, unfortunately.
Wow.
And the seller of that, the manufacturer or the dealer, should provide you documentation as to whether or not what you purchased does qualify.
Is there a list somewhere where you find that?
There is. If you go to irs.gov, you can do a search and look for that.
Okay. And then Maria posted this question on Facebook. She moved from Indiana to Kentucky last year, but she works in Ohio. Gosh, she's traveling the tri-state. Does she need to file 3 state tax forms?
Well, you know, as with most things in the tax law, it depends. That's the answer that generally happens. But clearly, if she lived in Indiana and Kentucky, she should file a part-year resident in both of those states.
Okay.
Now, whether or not she has to file in Ohio depends on whether her employer withheld Ohio state income tax.
Aha.
If they did, she'll want to file that and get a refund because there's reciprocity between the states.
And she might be a situation where TurboTax isn't that simple for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Anytime you've got more than one state, it's not that easy.
And we do have sales tax issues because a lot of people work in Cincinnati and then live in, you know, Butler County or something, or in Kentucky.
Well, and what happens is you have to file the tax. You have to file a tax return in your state of residence and pay the tax there. But since we have reciprocity in the states here locally, which means that you're not required to file tax returns in one state if you happen to work in the other one, if you do have an employer that withholds, you're absolutely going to want to file and get the state refund back. It just makes a lot of sense.
All right, here's what's really awesome about Crystal. She is willing that if you have a question for her, you can email us. Here's the email. It's so easy. Noonshow, Noonshow, at WCPO.com. It's right there on the bottom of your screen, and she'll get back to you, which is really wonderful of you to do. We thank you for stopping by. I'm sure we'll have plenty more questions for you as we go through this tax season, so you'll come back, right?
Absolutely.
All right, love that.